is phonology. Exactly. The description of the systems and patterns of speech sounds, or you can say it also studies the combination of sounds, or you can say it is the abstract or mental aspect of sounds. This is what we talked about last time. So we talked about phonology, and we said phonology is the description of the systems. Notice I used the red font to indicate the importance of these words. Systems and patterns of speech sounds in a language. Okay? Number two, you can say also phonology rules determine which sounds may be combined. And we said phonology is concerned with the abstract or mental aspect of the sound. And notice the most important words are actually written in red. Yeah? Okay, what does that mean? What does that mean? We said, for example, the sound, let's say, ta and ra. The combination of the sound ta and ra, is it allowed in English?
Yes.
Yes, it's allowed. What decides that? Phonology. Phonology decides, or English phonology, because each language has its own phonology. I cannot say, for example, Arabic and English have the same phonology. No. Each language in the world has its own phonological rules. So English phonology says you can have the combination of ta and ra in English. Can you give me an example? Tree. Trap. Yeah, lots of words. Lots of words in English that actually start with a combination of the sound ta and the sound ra. So this is what phonology does. It determines which sounds may be combined. It determines the organization of sounds. You can add here, when you say systems and patterns, it means the organization of sounds. Organization of sounds. It means how do we organize the sounds in English. We said also, for example, let's say ka and ra. The combination of ka and ra, is it allowed in English?
No.
Yes. Think of a word that starts with ka and ra. Cry. Exactly. Look at this. We don't care about the spelling. The spelling is not important. What we care about is the pronunciation. Okay? So how do you pronounce this word? How do you pronounce it? Say cry. So how do you transcribe this word? You just did that in the quiz, right? Cry. This is an R, okay? Cry. So it starts with a combination of ka and ra. So is this allowed? Yes. English allows, or English phonology allows you to have the combination of the sound ka and ra. It allows us to organize the sound ka and ra in this order. Remember, what if you have it in the other way around? No, you don't have at the beginning of English words, but you can have it at the end. For example, a word just like park. Park. Look at this. A word just like park, you can have the combination of ra and ka, but this one you can have it at the beginning of English words, and this one you can have it at the end of English words. What decides that? English phonology. Phonology says, okay, you can have this, but you can have it at the beginning of English words. English phonology also says you can have this, but you can have it only at the end of English words. Can we have this at the beginning of English words? No, never. You could never find a word in English that starts with a combination of ra and ka. Okay? Let's have another example. The sound, for example, ing. You remember the sound ing? Yeah? Can we have this at the beginning of English words? No. How do we know that? We don't know all the words in English. Because we subconsciously know that the combination of na and ga, let's say n and g as letters, or the sound ing, cannot be, or it cannot occur at the beginning of English words. Can we have this medially, at the medial position of English words? Yes. Can we have this finally, at the final position of English words? Yes. And what decides that? Phonology. Do you see that? So we talked about also, you're going to understand this more when we talked about the phoneme, the abstract or the mental aspect of the sound. We talked about phonemes and we said, think about phonemes as the mental aspect and think about allophones as the physical realizations of that phoneme. We're going to talk about this in a minute. I think I mentioned that last time, but we're going to again in a quick review today. Okay? So now we know the difference between phonology and phonetics. Can anyone please remind me what is the difference between phonetics and phonology? Can anyone please tell me what is the difference? Yeah, we're going to see that later. Lama. What is the difference between phonetics and phonology? Yes. What is phonology? It deals with what? Patterns, systems, combination of sounds. Okay? It deals with the abstract or the mental aspect of sounds. What about phonetics? What does it deal with? Physical aspect of sounds. It describes how we physically produce sounds. Look at this. What is the difference between phonetics and phonology? We said phonetics is about the physical aspect of sounds. It means phonetics, studies the production of sounds, let's say, made by the vocal tract by the speaker. So we study how we physically produce these sounds, and we said use square brackets when you talk about phonetics. When you refer to the physical, let's say, production of these sounds, we use square brackets. With phonology, it's about the abstract aspect of sounds, and it studies the phonemes. Remember, when you refer to the phonemes, use slashes. Good? So this one and this one, which is phonology and phonetics, both of them deal with sounds. But why do we have two branches of linguistics to deal with sounds? Because one of them deals with the physical aspect, and the other one deals with the mental aspect of sounds. Do you see the difference? Do you see why we have two branches of linguistics and not one? Both of them deal with sound, but they must have differences if we do have two branches. Good? Do you have any questions about this? We talked about this last time. Questions? Okay, remind me at the end of the class to tell you how to get the slides. Do you know how to get the slides? Yes. Yeah? Did I show you? Okay, so when you study for the exam, please look at the slides. They're going to help you as well. Okay? Let's continue. We also talked about a phoneme. Do you remember the phoneme? Okay? And we said a phoneme changes the meaning of the word. Yeah? For example, let's look at this. Let's look at these examples. You do have the word bat and pat. This is a phoneme. This is a phoneme. Why? Because if you try to replace one phoneme for another, you're going to end up with totally different words. It's going to change the meaning. Let's try to replace the sound da with the phoneme ta. Is it going to change the meaning? No. Yes. Because you do have the word had, then you have the word hat. So, ba, notice I'm using slashes. Yeah? Do you see here? I'm not using square brackets because I'm referring to the phoneme, to the mental aspect of the sound. So look at this. I'm using slashes and I say ba, pa, da, and ta are phonemes. Why? Because they can bring a difference in the meaning between two words. It means phonemes can change the meaning of words. Good? We also talked about allophones, and we said allophones do not change the meaning of words. Do you remember?
Yeah.
Okay, just a second. Okay, look at this. We said each phoneme has different versions that are produced in actual speech. So in English, if you have the phoneme ta, we don't actually pronounce it as ta. It depends on the position of that sound in the word. For example, if it's in the initial position, just like in a word tree, what do we have to do? We have to aspirate the T. You have to aspirate the T. So you don't pronounce it as tree. To have the good pronunciation, not the right pronunciation of the word tree is tree. You have to aspirate the ta. So you don't pronounce it as tree. It's not tree, okay? Next time you pronounce it, this one has to be a retroflex. The ra has to be retroflex, just like we learned in the phonetics chapter. And this one has to be aspirated, okay? So the phoneme ta is not pronounced in actual speech as ta. It depends on the position of that phoneme in the word. So if you have it at the initial position of the word, you're going to aspirate it. And we use a small H. I'm going to do this. So you say ta and you draw a small H here. This symbol aspiration. What does it mean, aspiration? Is to have a small puff of air. A small puff of air. Okay? This is aspiration. Okay, we have to remember we aspirate only voiceless stops, and if they are at the beginning of the word. I said that last time, right? Yeah. Okay, so let's do this. So aspiration, rule of aspiration. When do I aspirate? Aspiration. Number one, if you have a voiceless stop. So if you have ta or pa or ka, all of them are voiceless stops. Number two, you aspirate if you have this voiceless stop at the beginning of the word. You're going to see it's not actually at the beginning of the word because the context for aspiration is the syllable. But we're not going to talk about this in this class, okay? Okay, the most important thing to know, it doesn't have to be at the beginning of the word because the word is not the context for aspiration. To be very accurate is to say the context for aspiration is for these voiceless stops to be at the initial position of the syllable. But since we did not talk about the syllable, you're not going to understand what I mean. So we have to talk about the syllable first, then remind me to go back to aspiration. Because the context for aspiration is the syllable and not the word. So you have to have the voices stop in the initial position of the syllable. For now, we did not talk about the syllable, but for now, I need you to understand that you aspirate the ta, pa, ka if they are at the beginning of the word, for now. Okay? When we talk about the syllable, we're going to go back to this. Okay, so number two, it has to be in initial position. Initial, that's an I, position. Okay? Let's give examples. Yes, Doctor.
What about the word talk?
Talk. Yes. You aspirate the tongue. Why? Because this is initial position. Look at this. The word talk. Talk. This one has to be aspirated. Why? Number one, it's a voiceless stop. Number two, it is in initial position. Another word, take. Do I aspirate the ta in here? Yes, because it's a voiceless stop. Number two is in initial position. So next time you pronounce this word, and remember this one is an A sound, right? So say take, not take. Just like we hear our students saying, not take, take, take. And you have to aspirate the ta. Okay, another example of pa, for example, you have the word put and pull or pot. So we have to aspirate the pa. Why? Number one, it's a voiceless stop. Number two, it's an initial position. And remember, we use a small h to represent aspiration. Okay? You have an example for ka, just like key, just like cat. Yes, cat, because spelling is misleading. How do you pronounce this word? Cat. How do you transcribe the word cat? Do you remember? How do you transcribe the word cat? Cat. Right? So this one is a ka. It's a voiceless stop. It's in initial position, so you aspirate it. Good? About aspiration? Okay, so it's not just the ta, it's also the ka and the pa. It has to be a voiceless stop. Okay, if you look at the T here in cat, do I aspirate the ta? No. Why? In final position. We said it has to be in initial position. So the ta here is not aspirated. Why? It's in final position. You have to have the voices stop in initial position in order to aspirate that sound. Good so far about aspiration. So my point, or let's say the main focus wasn't about aspiration, but it was about the phoneme. We said the phoneme has different versions. So it depends, let's say, the different versions of that phoneme phoneme depends on the position of that sound in the word. For example, the sound ta, is it at the beginning of the English word? So you have to aspirate it. This is how you pronounce it in actual speech. So look at this. For example, the sound ta is going to be pronounced as normal ta because it's preceded by the sound sa. We can add this to aspiration. So we said number 1, it has to be a voiceless stop. Number 2, it has to be in initial position. Number 3, it cannot be preceded by the sound sa. Let's add that. Number 3, did you write that? Do you need it? Okay. Let me write this just to be clear. So with aspiration, we said number 1, it has to be a voiceless stop. Number 2, it has to be in initial. Okay, I'm writing keywords. I need you to write these words by yourself. Initial position. Number 3, it cannot be preceded by the sound sa. It means you cannot have the sound sa before the voiceless stop. So it cannot be preceded. It can not be preceded. You have E, then you have a D, by the sound sa. Okay, or the phoneme sa, you can say.
Just sa?
Just sa. Okay, let's look at these examples. Let's say, for example, a word just like sky. Do I aspirate the ka in here? No. Why? I just said that. It's preceded by the sound sa. Okay, a word just like splash. Do I aspirate the pa in here? No. Why? Because it's preceded by the sound sa. You know what preceded means? Yeah? It cannot, you cannot have the sound sa before the voiceless stop. If you have it, you don't aspirate. Good? Okay. Let's continue. So we said the sound, the phoneme ta, it could have an aspirated ta if it's at initial position and it's not preceded by the sound sa. Number 2, you could have a normal ta just like sa. You don't aspirate the ta in here, okay? Don't aspirate it because it's preceded by the sound sa. You could have a dental ta. This one is dental. Since you cannot do that, okay? So here, this is a dental ta. Why do I call it a dental ta? Look at this word, eighth. Eighth. How do I transcribe this word, eighth? Let's look at this. Let's try to transcribe here. This is tree. True. You remember what transcription is? Ta. Yeah? Let's transcribe eighth. Sorry, I need an eraser. You need a pen, then you have eighth. And you're going to have a dental ta. Ta. Then you have, let's leave right up for the end. Okay, let's look at this. So we said number 1, it has to be aspirated. Here you don't have aspiration. You have another version of the phoneme ta. You could have a dental ta. When do you have a dental ta? If you have the sound ta following that sound. So the sound ta is going to affect the pronunciation of the alveolar or the stop ta, and you're going to end up with a dental ta. Remember, this sound is a dental sound. Yeah? The sound ta, do you remember?
Yes.
It's a dental sound. So it's going to affect the ta, and it's going to become a dental as well. Okay? And this is the symbol for the dental sound. So ta originally is not a dental sound. It is what? An alveolar. But if it's followed by a dental sound, it's going to be a dental stop. Good? Okay. We have a fourth version of the phoneme ta. You could actually flab the ta in here. When do I flab? We said we call this process. Let me just flapping. Flapping. So what is flapping? You only can find that in American English, okay? So what is flapping? You have the sound da or you have the sound ta, and they are surrounded by vowels. So the sound da and the sound ta, they should be between vowels. V stands for vowels, okay? So if you have a vowel, just like the word writer, remember spelling is not important, so we have to transcribe. Let's transcribe the sound, the word writer. So when I transcribe the word writer, it's going to look something like this. I'm going to use a flap, then you have rider, just like Americans pronounce it, okay? So if you look at this, rider, this one is a flap. Why did I flap the T, the T sound, sorry? Because it is surrounded by two vowels. This is the context for flapping. Again, when do we flap? If we have the sound ta or da between two vowels. Now we said we call all of these versions allophones of the phoneme ta. So all of them are called allophones. Remember, allophones, you use square brackets for them. So those are allophones of the phoneme ta. Good? Okay, let's continue. You're done with that? Okay, let's continue. So you have here, we said all of these versions, we said they are allophones of the phoneme ta, and the allophone should be in square brackets. Remember that. Okay, so you have here an explanation, the same explanation that I just said, okay? So you can get the slide and read it by yourselves because I just said that. Then, before I talk about nasalization, last time we talked about the difference between a phoneme and an allophone. We said if you replace one phoneme for another, it changes the meaning of the word. And we gave you an example, right? But if you change one phoneme for another, would it change the meaning? No. Look at this. If you pronounce the word as tree or tree, would that make a difference in meaning? No, it wouldn't make a difference in meaning. So go talk to a native speaker and say tree. Would they understand what you're talking about? Yes, it's not going to change the meaning of the word. Again, I'll give you another example. The word writer, do you remember? Okay, if I talk to an American, let's say, this is an I, okay? If I talk to an American speaker and I said writer, and I did not flap, would they understand what I'm talking about? Yes, because a flap is an allophone. So try to replace this phoneme, or let's say this, try for example to pronounce it with a flap. It's not going to change the meaning of the word. Try not to aspirate the ta in tree. Would people understand what you're talking about? Yes. They would understand. Try this with a native speaker. Say tree. They would understand what you're talking about. It's not going to change the meaning of the word. Try to say writer and not writer with Americans. Would they understand? Yes. Because allophones do not change the meaning of words. Only phonemes change the meaning of words. So if you have a word just like bat and change that with a pa phoneme pat, would that change the meaning of the word? Yes. You see what I'm talking about? Okay, this is the difference between a phoneme and an allophone. A phoneme replacing one phoneme for another, it would change the meaning of the word. Now try to replace, let's say, replace it with an allophone. Would it change the meaning of the word? No. Good. I talked about this last time. This is a quick review. If you still have any problems, just come to my office so we can discuss it more. I'm not going to talk more about this. Okay. So we're done with phonemes and allophones. Okay. We have another examples of phonemes and allophones, something that we call nasalization. So we talked about aspiration. We talked about flapping, right? We talked about dental sounds, which they are not originally dentals, just like the dental ta. Yeah? We're going to talk about another one. Before I talk about nasalization, do you remember the glottal stop?
Yes.
So the replacement of the glottal stop is also an allophone. The glottal stop is an allophone. It's not a phoneme in English. Why is that? Because when you say, for example, the word bottle or bottle, it's the same word. Okay? So the glottal stop is an allophone. It's not a phoneme. Why? Because it doesn't change the meaning of the word. Good? Okay, let's continue. So we talk. You can list them here. We talked about, So we talked about aspiration, and we said aspiration is allophonic in English. allophonic. It means it doesn't change the meaning of words. Aspiration, we talked about this, and we talked about flapping, and we said also flapping, that's an F, okay? Flapping in American English is also allophonic because it doesn't change the meaning of words. Also, we talked about glottal stops, for example, in Cockney English and London accent. If you replace, for example, the sound with a glottal stop in a word just like bottle, it's not going to change the meaning of words, so it is what? Allophonic as well. So glottal stop, glottal replacement. All of them are allophonic processes. Why are they allophonic? Because they don't change the meaning of words. Let's look at nasalization. Is it allophonic or phonemic? Let's try to understand what nasalization means. Okay. Do you remember nasals? Do you remember what happens when you pronounce nasal sounds? The velum is lowered. Nasal cavity is open. Okay. With nasalization, we talk about sounds that are originally oral, but they are nasalized because they are next to a nasal sound. Let's see what that means. It says here nasalization, you can write this with a Z or with an S, is the production of sounds, is the production of sounds for speech by pushing air out through the nasal cavity. Okay? We have to understand also the difference between a nasalized sound and a nasal sound. There's a difference, okay? So look at this. For example, this is the example that's going to make you understand what I'm talking about. In English, there's a difference in pronunciation of the E. Do you remember the vowel E? Yeah? Sound in words just like seed and seen. Let's look at the transcription. You have seed. This is how you transcribe seed. You have the sa sound, you have the E sound, and you have the two dots because that's a long vowel. Then you have the da sound. You have seen. What do you notice? We have like a little diacritic in here. I'm going to do it again with big, so you can see it. Seen. Look how I transcribe the word seen. Why? Because this vowel is nasalized. It means when I pronounce this vowel, my nasal cavity is open. Why do you think that is? Because you have a nasal na. The nasal na affects the pronunciation of the vowel E, and it's going to be nasalized, just like the nasal vowel. So nasalized sounds are originally oral. Remember, in English, we don't have nasal vowels. We only have oral vowels. So those oral vowels in English are affected by the nasal sound. The nasal sound is going to affect the pronunciation of the vowel E, and you're going to pronounce it seen. Your nasal cavity is going to be open when you pronounce the vowel E. Why is that? Because of the nasal? No. It's affecting the pronunciation of the E sound. Okay? Okay, remember when you transcribe and you add these details, for example, you add the diacritic for nasalization, or when you add the small h for aspiration, or when you write the capital D for flapping, we call this kind of transcription, did I say that last time? No. Narrow transcription. What does it mean, narrow? I add details to the transcription. So do I add, for example, a small h? Do I add, for example, this diacritic for nasalized vowels? Or do I, for example, include a flapping or glottal replacement? When you add details, we call this kind of transcription a narrow transcription. When you don't add details, just like we learned in the first chapter, we call this broad. Broad. So you have two types of transcriptions. You have narrow, where you add details. You have broad, where you don't add details. Good? So you can think about narrow transcription as a detailed transcription. Why is it detailed? Because you add details. Broad, you don't add any details. So if you want to transcribe the word seen, with broad transcription, it's going to look something like this. Seen. This is broad. I did not add any details. Now, this one is narrow. Why? Because I add the details of the nasalized vowel. Do we see the difference between the word nasal and nasalized? This is a nasal sound. The na is a nasal sound. Do you remember? But this vowel is nasalized. Why is it nasalized? Because it's affected by the nasal na. It's originally oral. Okay? Good. Now I have a question for you. Is the sound E with the small diacritic here, the small symbol, an allophone or a phoneme in English? Is it an allophone or a phoneme, and why? Yes, Lama.
It depends on position in word. We can go a phoneme and a allophone.
You can call it a phoneme and an allophone at the same time? Is it an allophone or a phoneme?
It depends on position in the word.
Yeah, it depends on the position, because if it's followed by a nasal sound, it's going to be nasalized. So is it a phoneme or an allophone? Allophone. Why?
Because it take in square brackets and
Does it change the meaning?
no.
No. That's the answer. So the E here with the small symbol, the small diacritic, is an allophone because it doesn't change the meaning of the word. So you can say seen or seen. You can use a nasalized vowel or an oral vowel, still be the same word, seen. Okay? It doesn't change the meaning of words in English. So if you pronounce it as seen with a nasalized vowel, or if you pronounce it as seen with an oral vowel, is there a difference in meaning? No. So is it what? An allophone. Because it doesn't change the meaning of words. Whether you have a nasalized vowel or you don't have a nasalized vowel, it's the same for us. Okay? But the right pronunciation is to have a nasalized vowel. It should be seen. So your nasal cavity is open when you pronounce this vowel E. Now, if you pronounce it to a native speaker just like seen without a nasalized vowel, they're going to understand what you're talking about. It doesn't change the meaning of words. It isn't the right pronunciation, but it doesn't change the meaning of words. So it's an allophone. So nasalization, is it phonemic or allophonic? Allophonic, because it doesn't change the meaning of word. I think that was a question 2 years ago. Yeah, I think it was 2 years ago. Nasalization, we asked him, nasalization is allophonic in English. Or is it allophonic or phonemic? And explain and give examples. I think that was a question just like that. It could be one of those. I could ask you, aspiration, is it phonemic or allophonic? Flapping, is it phonemic or allophonic? And give examples. Glottal replacement. So we can add number 4. Number 4, nasalization. All of these processes are allophonic because they don't change the meaning of words. Can you give examples of each? Can you do that? If I give you a question just like that in the exam? Good. Good. Do you have any questions about nasalization or narrow or broad transcription? Do you have any questions about that? You're going to find this in your textbook. All of the things that we talked about is in your textbook if you read the chapter. Okay, let's continue. So we talked about nasalization, aspiration, flapping, glottal replacement, and we talked about the differences between phonemes and allophones. We're going to talk about minimal pairs and sets. Okay, let me go back to here. Look at the word bat and pat, had and hat. We said these two words are identical except for one sound in the same position. We call these two words, we refer to these two words, we call them minimal pair. Now remember, the word pair means two. Means two, right? So you have two words, a minimal pair, you have two words, they are identical in every single sound except for one sound in the same position. Doesn't have to be the first sound, doesn't have to be the initial sound. It could be any position, but it has to be in the same position. Look at this. You do have identical except for one sound, so that's a minimal pair. Yeah? Another example. You have a slide with lots of examples. I have a slide with lots of examples. Look at this. Let me show you. Those are minimal pairs and sets. Look at examples of minimal pairs. Do you see that? Examples of minimal pairs. So look at these two. It's in red. Okay, the sound that is different is in red. So look at this. Fan and van. They are identical. It means they are the same. Okay, except for one sound. You can say they have the same sounds, except for one sound in the same position. So this one is initial. This one is initial. Okay. Look at this. Bit and bad. Are those minimal pairs? Yes, because they are identical. Look at this. Both of them have pa, pa, ta, ta. Now look at the middle. E and a. Yeah, so it's a minimal pair. Look at side and side. They are identical. Okay, remember, what you have here is not actually very accurate because you have to transcribe first to see if they are a minimal pair or not. Let me show you. So to do this is not very accurate. You have to do this. So you say fan, transcribe first. Okay, transcribe first to see if they are a minimal pair or not. Okay. So how do you transcribe fan? This is how you transcribe fan, and this is how you transcribe van. So they have a na sound, a and na sound. So they are different in one sound. So it's a minimal pair. Good. Look at pits and pans. How do I transcribe pits? This is how I transcribe pits, and this is how I transcribe pans. So they are identical. You have ta, ta, you have pa, pa sound, except for the vowel sound in the middle. So it is a minimal pair. Okay? Look at the last one. Last one. How do we transcribe? Do we have a diphthong in here? Yes. Yes. So you have sides, and then you have side. Let's look at this. So they have a sa sound, sa sound. They have a diphthong I, the diphthong I in here, except for one sound. Remember, in the same position. So it's final, final. Okay? They have one sound that is different, so it is a minimal pair. Okay? You have a definition of a minimal pair here when two words such as pat and bat are identical in form except for a contrast in one phoneme. Okay? They have one phoneme different, one sound different, occurring in the same position. The two words are described as a minimal pair. Can you give me examples? Other examples than this? Give me examples of minimal pairs.
Low and la. Low and la.
Yes, low and law. That's a good example. Low. Look at this. You have the word low, and you have the word, law. That's an A, okay? So are these minimal pairs? Let's see. Let's transcribe. Let's look at this. How do you transcribe low? Low. How do you transcribe law? Law. So they are identical except for one sound. So it's a minimal pair. Other examples?
Sad and sat.
Sad and sat, yes. They are identical in form except for the sound ta and da. Good. Other examples? Other examples, minimal pairs? Meat and heat. Good. Meat and heat. They are identical in everything except, for example, for the sound ma and the sound ha. Is this clear about minimal pairs? Okay, we have an exercise. We're going to do it at the end of the lecture. I'm going to do the exercise. Okay, let's continue. We have something that we call minimal set. Minimal set is more than two words. So if you have two words, that's a minimal pair. If you have three or more, that's a set. Okay? Look at this. When a group of words can be differentiated, each one from the others, by changing one phoneme, always in the same position, be careful, then we have a minimal set. So a minimal pair, two words. A minimal set, three words and more. So look at these. Examples of minimal sets. Feet, fit, fat, fate, fought, and foot. So all of them have the fa and the ta sound, except for the vowel in the middle. It's different. So they are a minimal set. Look at this. Big, pig, fig, dig, and wig. This is a minimal set. Why? Because they are identical. All of them have the same sound except for one sound. So that's a minimal set. So the minimal set is the same thing as a minimal pair, except for the fact that you have more than two sounds, two words, more than two words. Good? Okay, be careful about minimal sets and minimal pairs. Do you have any questions about minimal sets and minimal pairs? No? Okay. We're going to continue something that we call phonotactics. Actually, we talked about this earlier, but we did not introduce you to the term. So if you look at this, okay, I know, very confusing for you, but look at this example and you're going to understand what I'm talking about. You remember when we said, for example, the sound ka and ra? We said, is this combination allowed in English? Yes. In a word just like cry, crowd, crew, and so on. So this combination of sounds is allowed in English. Now we call the rules or the constraints, okay? The rules or the constraints that actually determine what combination of sounds you should have, phonotactics. So we said, we call them, if you remember, I told you phonological rules. Actually, they have example. They have a name. We call this phonotactics. So the phonotactics of English allow you to have a combination of ka and ra. The phonotactics of English allows you to have a combination of ta and ra at the beginning of English words. They say the phonotactics of English allows you to have the sounds sa and pa at the beginning of English words. Good? So the rules, these phonological rules that allows you to have these combination of sounds are called phonotactics. So we talked about this, but we did not introduce it to the term. The term here is new. Okay? So we call these constraints, these rules that govern the combination of sounds in a language, phonotactics. Okay? Let's look at what it says here. The constraints, or you can say the rules, okay? The constraints on the sequence or position of English phonemes are known as phonotactics. So, the phonotactics of English, just like I said, allows pa and la at the beginning of English words. You have the phonotactics of English allows you to have a combination of ka and la at the beginning of English words. Look at this. Both of them are common in English. Can you give me examples of pa, la, and ka and la? English words where you have the combination of pa. Play. Yes. Play. Place. Ka and la. Play. Close. Cloud. So is it allowed in English? Yes. So phonotactics of English allows us to have these combinations. Now, continue reading. But words beginning with ta and la are not. Can we find a word in English that starts with a combination of ta and la? You would never find that. You can go and search all the English dictionary. You would never find a word in English that starts with ta and la. So is this combination allowed in English? No. It's not allowed. So the phonotactics of English does not allow us to have this combination. You see, we talked about it before, but we did not talk about the term phonotactics. Phonotactics it is referred to the constraints and the rules that govern the combination of English sounds. Good? Do you have a clear idea what phonotactics is? Yeah, I know, lots of new terms. We should actually talked about this when we talked about the examples at the beginning of this chapter. Doesn't matter now. Okay. We're going to continue.
How is tiller?
I mean, you have an E, teller.
Yes.
Yeah, teller.
E before now.
Yes, you have an E before the L. Cool, it's not tler. If you're going to have it as a combination, as a consonant cluster, you're not going to say tler. You have to pronounce it this way. It's actually teller. Yeah? Okay. So, we said the sound ta and la cannot be found. You can go and search all the dictionaries of English language. You're not going to find this combination. It's not allowed. If you find one, you're going to get extra mark. You can't find it because you cannot find it. Yeah? Okay. You can't find this combination of ta and la at the beginning of English words. Impossible. Why? Because phonotactics of English does not allow it. Yeah? If you have read your textbook, you wouldn't actually bet on that because it's written in your textbook. Okay? Okay. Let's continue. Okay. Do you remember about aspiration? And I said the context for aspiration is not actually the word. We said the syllable. So when you talk about phonology, you need to talk about the syllables, okay? That's what we're going to mention today. We're going to talk about the syllables. And what are the syllables? Okay, before we talk about this, let me give you a word, and I need you to think, using your intuitions, how many syllables in that word? Let's say a word just like computer. Okay, I need you to think for a minute and think how many syllables this word has. How did you know that? Can anyone please describe to me how did you count the syllables?
2 syllables.
So what did you do exactly? So what? Why did you decide, for example, to have, computer? So you said first syllable, second syllable, third syllable. On what basis? On what basis? Why did you say, for example, com is a syllable, pu is a syllable, ta is a syllable? Why?
Should have a consonant, vowel, then consonant.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be. The last one is not. I mean, even the first one, consonants are not important. You're going to see. The most important thing are the vowels. So when you counted how many syllables you have, you said, okay, com. Okay, you said something like. Okay, you said com because I have the vowel o, com. Then you say bu. I have the vowel u. Then you have ta. You have a schwa. You said 1, 2, 3. So I have 3 syllables. You see what we do? Okay, let's look at another word, just like teacher. How many syllables this word has?
2.
How did you know that?
Teacher.
You said teacher. Yes. So you said T. You said you have a vowel E in here. Then you said you have a schwa in here. This is the first vowel. This is the second vowel. So I do have 2 syllables. So what is the most important? Sorry? Yeah, what about the cha? It's a consonant. Yeah? The sound cha is a consonant. It's not a vowel. Okay? So, if you look at this, notice that we looked at the vowels in order to count the syllables. So, what is the most important part of the syllable? The vowel. Okay, let's look at this. So, look at what it says here. What is a syllable? A unit of pronunciation having 1 vowel sound. So, if I have 2 vowels in the same word, how many syllables I have? 2. Let's look at this word. I is a word, the pronoun I. How many syllables do you have in the pronoun I? 1. Do you have any consonants in here? No. Let's transcribe it. I. Do you have any consonants? No. So consonants are not important in syllables. The most important part of the syllable is the vowel. So if you have 1 vowel, 1 syllable. Good? Okay. So we said a unit of pronunciation having 1 vowel sound with or without surrounding consonant. You see this? With or without. Yeah, not important. Not important to have consonants. Because you could have 1 vowel and that's 1 syllable. Okay? Just like the word I. The word I consists of 1 syllable. It consists of 1 vowel. It is a syllable. Okay, so with or without surrounding consonants, forming the whole or a part of the word. Exactly. Okay, before I talk about this, let's look at a word just like computer. Let's go back to the word computer. So we said, if you look at the first syllable, com. Let's look at this syllable. Okay, we have to transcribe, of course, the word com. Okay, let me do this. Okay, let me do this again. So the word computer, let's look at this again. Okay? We said this word has 3. Come on.
So you keep touching these icons in the left.
Yeah? Okay, okay. Oh, the icons here.
Yes.
Should I do something like yes, okay. So you have computer. We said it has 3 syllables. Let's look at the first syllable, which is com. How do I transcribe the word com? It's going to look something like this, yeah? Com. This is the first syllable. Now, if you look at the first syllable, if you have a consonant, the first one, I refer to it as the onset. I refer to the vowel and the last consonant as the rhyme. Okay, keep it in mind. I'm going to explain this more, okay? show you the tree that I drew for you to understand what I'm talking about. Just a second. Okay. This is the syllable and what it consists of. Okay. So let's have a a word that has one syllable. Let's say like the word sat. How many syllables in the word sat? One vowel is one sound. Let me transcribe it first. Sat. Okay. Yeah? Okay, let's see what this word consists of. We said it consists of one syllable. Let's look at this. Any syllable in any language would consist of the onset. The word onset means the beginning. Okay? The onset, it could consist of one consonant, two consonants, up to three consonants in English. We're going to give examples. So you have sat, you have the sound sa is an onset because that's the beginning of the word. Then the syllable consists of a rhyme. The rhyme consists of a nucleus. Remember the word nucleus, it means the core of something, which means the most important thing in the syllable, which is the vowel. The vowel is a. The coda, which is the last consonant, it could be one consonant or more. Just like T. Sat. Onset, nucleus, coda. Again, onset, sa, nucleus, a, coda, ta. Yeah? Let's have another word. Yeah?
Can you describe the C word? C.
C word?
S and double E.
Yeah, okay. Let's look at the word C. That's another shape, yeah? The word C. Let's transcribe it first. So you have C. C. How do we actually analyze the syllable structure of the word C? Does it have an onset? Yes. Does it have a vowel? Yes. Does it have a coda? No. No coda. So this actually, if you want to do this, you're going to drop this. So you're going to have a rhyme, nucleus, and one vowel just like C. So in a way just like C, you do have a consonant and a vowel. That's it. In a word just like sa, just like we did it, it has a consonant, vowel, another consonant. Let's have a word just like, let's say, spray. No, let's leave it. Play. Let's have play. Play. Do you need this? Can I just erase it?
Yes.
Okay. Let's have a word just like play. Can we transcribe the word play? Play. Actually, we should have A because it's play. Yeah? Okay. How do we analyze the structure of the word play? Do we have an onset? What's the onset? P and la. The pa sound and the la sound. So the onset has two consonants. It has the pa sound. It has the la sound. So look at this. I said consonant or consonants. So you could have one consonant or you could have two consonants. Up to three in English. You could never have four. We're going to see. The nucleus is the vowel A. Do we have a coda? No, we don't. No coda. Do we have consonants? Does this word end in a consonant? No. So it's something like this. C, C, V. Two consonants and one vowel. Fine? Okay. Let's have another word. Another word just like, let's say black. The word black. Let's transcribe the word first. So number one, you transcribe the word. Let's transcribe it. You have black. True? Let's try to analyze the structure of this word. How many onsets I have? Two. So you have ba and la. Okay, ignore this. Okay. Then you have the nucleus is the vowel R. Then you have the ka sound, which is the coda. Good? Black. Okay, we do have 3 minutes. Let me give you the last word, then we can continue next time. So you have, let's say a word just like Splash. Yes. Yeah? Let's think about this word. Number one, we transcribe it. Splash. Good? Then what do? We analyze the structure of this word. How many consonants we have in the onset? 3. So we have splash. Good? Then you have a, the vowel a. Then you have the coda. You have one consonant in the coda, which is the sha. Okay, do not be confused with the 2 letters. We don't care about letters. Number one, you transcribe. Then you analyze the structure, the syllable structure of the word when you transcribe. Number one, transcription. Number 2, you analyze the structure, the syllable structure of the word. You see what we're doing here? Okay, let me show you where you can find this in the textbook. Since we do have 2 minutes left, let's look at this. I'm going to talk about this again next time, but quickly, okay? We're going to talk about that quickly because we need to finish the chapter. Okay, you can find this on page 58. Look at page 58. Yeah, do you see the diagram on page 58? Okay, this is the syllable. What does it consist of? An onset, a rhyme. Okay, you can write the rhyme just like that, or you can have it a rhyme. Yeah? Both of them are correct. You have the rhyme, then you have the nucleus, the vowel, the coda, then you have the consonant. We said in the onset, you could have 2 vowels, or 2 consonants, or you could have 3 consonants. Can I have more than 3? No. Impossible. Can you think of a word in English that has more than 3 consonants? Okay, do not attach any morphemes. Do not attach any, let's say, parts of the words to that word. Okay? It has to be the original word. Okay. Then you have the rhyme, you have a vowel, then you have the coda. How many consonants we can have in the coda in English? 3. We can have 3, just like the word text. Text. Try to transcribe it. Ka, sa, and ta. You can have 3, you can have 2, and you can have 1. Can we have 4? No. We can have 4 if you only add, let's say, morphemes to the word. Yeah? Okay, well, I'm going to talk about this in details. Let's say more next time. Okay. Yes, and you can read the rest of this section. Okay. Next time we're going to continue talking about the co-articulation effects, and we're going to do the study questions. I need you to look at the study questions and try to answer as many questions as you can, because we're going to look at them next time. The first exam is going to be with the first 2 chapters, phonetics and phonology. Good? Okay, let me take attendance.